Hey, good morning, everyone. Today we're going to talk about balancing, like I promised in my latest message. We're going to use some of the hands from Tuesday night's RBC game to illustrate times that you do want to balance versus times that maybe you want to think twice about balancing. But let's have a 5-minute conversation about balancing, followed by a couple of hand examples and how we would apply our new knowledge that come from the RBC examples on Tuesday night. So a couple of basics. We do not want to let our opponents play at the 1 or 2 level when they are known to have a fit. So if our opponents are known to have at least 8 trumps and they are trying to let the auction die at the 1 or 2 level, generally speaking, it's a bad idea for us to let that happen. And we're going to be super aggressive about balancing. So let's go ahead and define balancing. What does balancing mean? Balancing is when you are in a position where a pass would end the auction. So anytime it goes bid, pass, pass, that person is now what's called a balancing situation, or you might hear their seat called the balancing seat. Okay, so that's what balancing is. When do we do it? After 2 passes, and particularly when we know our opponents have a fit. Why do we do it? Well, the data suggests that we get really bad scores when we let them play at the 1 or 2 level with an 8-card fit rather than disturbing their auction and balancing. Let's go over the ways that balancing can win. So let's imagine an auction where our opponents, I'll give you the simplest example. 1 heart, pass, 2 hearts. And now it goes pass, pass. This is a very dangerous auction. Like, this is the prototypical dangerous auction because our opponents have let us know a couple of very important things. First of all, they have an 8-card fit in hearts. And second of all, they don't have the values for games. So when we balance in a situation like this, there's a lot of ways for us to win. We could push them to the 3 level and have them go down 1 instead of making 2, or have them go down 2 instead of going down 1. We could find our own contract. Remember, like, even if you're looking at a bad hand, and it goes heart, 2 hearts, pass, pass, back to you, the opponents have told you that your partner has some values that he just couldn't bid on, probably because he's got a flat hand, not a whole lot of shape. The more high card points he has, the flatter he's going to be. But you are allowed to draw the inference when your opponent stops short of game or short of inviting game that your partner's got the balance of the values. So if it goes a heart, 2 hearts, your opponents probably have somewhere between 18 and 23 high card points. Realize that if you're only looking at 4 or 5, that leaves your partner with a very nice hand that he just wasn't able to act with. Okay, so in these situations, we're sort of bidding partner's hand as well as our own. How do we balance? Normally, we'll just bid our own long suit, or more frequently make a takeout double that says, I'm short in their suit. I am bidding your hand on faith. I'm imagining what it is and that you must have values because the opponents have stopped shy of inviting a game. Pick a suit. So takeout double, bidding your own long suit. Sometimes you can do some fancy stuff like bidding 2 no trump for takeout, but that is how we would balance. Okay, so another question I get about this a lot is, does vulnerability matter? It does. You can start out being like a little bit of a fraidy cat when you're vulnerable, just because, if you're vulnerable and get out of line and they double you and beat you 1, that's pretty much going to be a disaster when they don't have a game, right? Because you've traded your minus 110 or 140, whatever it's going to be, for minus 200. And that's going to leapfrog a lot of the scores and give you something pretty close to a 0. So vulnerability matters. I say that with this caveat: people aren't balancing aggressively enough. So I hesitate to give you more excuses not to balance. But sure, the answer is vulnerability matters. Let's talk about quickly, before we go into the data from RBC Tuesday night, auction types that are safe to balance and a little bit unsafe to balance, and just to clear up any confusion. So we're trying to get the opponents off the 2 level anytime we know they have a fit. So let me give you an auction where they don't necessarily have to have a fit. Let's say they open a week 2. It goes pass, pass. They don't necessarily have to have a fit. They could be in the throes of a misfit. Dummy could have 0 of them. Okay, so that's not necessarily a hand or an auction type that you have to get involved with if your hand, like, just doesn't feel like it should. You don't have to be super vigilant against that auction. Another auction you don't have to be super vigilant against: a heart, a forcing no trump, two of a minor, two hearts. Okay, the opponents are maybe trying to stop at two hearts, but here, very likely they don't have 8 trumps. Okay, we don't have to be as worried about balancing when they've got 7 trumps. And one of the rules is, like, the more fit they have in general, the more fit we have. Okay, so those the horse that you could find your own making part score, or you could find your own making part score that goes down, but the penalty is less than the value of them making their part score. The more fit they have leads to our having a fit also, right? Because we have fewer of their trumps, which means we have more of the other suits, which makes it more likely that we've got a fit. Okay, and it's going to, those horses that we have that can provide us with a win when we do balance, they're more likely to exist when the opponents have 8 trumps than when they have 7. Okay, so the prototypical auction I want you to be worried about is 1 heart past 2 hearts, just where they don't have at least invitational values, and that they have 8 trumps. And there's going to be there's going to be a spectrum of when it's obvious to balance versus not obvious, but that would be like at the far end. They open a major, they raise to 2, and it goes pass. That's an auction you've got to be especially careful about. So let's get into some of the hands and talk about some of the concepts from Tuesday night. I will tell you that I data mined what went on a little bit. There were 11 tables in play at the RBC on Tuesday night, and we played 22 boards, which means that there were 242 results from Tuesday night. Board was played 11 times, 22 tables gives us 242 results, maybe plus or minus a few if there were pass outs, or even that counts. There might have been a couple of times when, like, a board didn't get scored because we ran out of time, but basically 242 results from Tuesday night. And what I did on a cocktail napkin this morning was I counted up the number of times that people were allowed to play undoubled at the 1 or 2 level when their side had at least an 8-card fit in the trump suit that they were playing. I should have mentioned when I talked about things that you don't have to balance against, you don't have to balance against 1 no trump very often. Like, we're talking about balancing against a trump fit. Okay, so 1 no trump, a little bit of a different animal. You don't have to worry about balancing against 1 no trump nearly as often as you have to worry about balancing against 2 of their fit when they have at least 8 of them. Anyway, back to this idea that there were 242 results from Tuesday night. 36 times out of 242, so that's almost 15% of the results, were situations where one side got to play at the 1 or 2 level with an 8-card trump fit. And the results from those 36 times, and I would actually, like, this is anecdotal and just eyeballing it and kind of comparing it with my experience, but Tuesday night actually seemed to me like a night where there were a couple of hands where it wasn't right to balance. In other words, Tuesday night seemed like, generally speaking, an unattractive night to balance in these situations where it was close. Anyway, 36 times people were allowed to play at the 1 or 2 level with 8 trumps or more, and the average match point score for those 36 times was 58%. What that means is, if we knowingly find ourselves in a spot where we're about to let our opponents do that, we are signing on the dotted line for a long run average of 42%. 42% isn't going to win you many events. So let's talk about ways that we can avoid those situations with some hand examples. The boards we're going to talk about are 6, 7, 12, and 22. I've got them pulled up. I think 2 of these boards are ones where the warning signs would be there that you shouldn't balance, and then 2 of them you should be balancing more aggressively than the average table at the RBC on Tuesday night did. So let's get into this. Board 6 is, let me give you an example. This is one where we probably should balance. A lot of times East-West were allowed to play 2 spades on this hand, and that did not lead to good results. So there were 4 times that East-West got to play 2 spades on their 9-card fit, lacking game values. And those 4 times that they were allowed to play 2 spades, East-West ended up with 2/3 of the match point, 66%. Here's one auction example where I think it would be imperative for North-South to balance. So let's say it went pass, and West opened with, I saw this at one table where they were playing a weak no trump. Let's say that West opened a diamond, playing a weak no trump, and North overcalled a heart. And East bid 1 spade, showing enough values to respond, but at least 5 spades also. And let's say it went past 2 spades, and 2 spades shows like strong no trump values here if they're playing a weak no trump, which is a good way to illustrate this. And it goes pass. Okay, South is in a situation here where the warning bell should be going off. I mean, like even if partner didn't bid a heart, we would be able to tell at this point in the auction, say partner passed and they just had a diamond, a spade, 2 spades. We would be able to tell that our partner had a lot of values that she just couldn't bid for whatever reason. Normally that reason is that they are flat and or have length in the suit that was bid on their right. Here partner happened to bid 1 heart, but regardless, the ingredients are here telling us that we need to think about trying to get a balance in. Okay, we know that our opponents have 8 trumps. We know that they're shy of game values. Here we are not vulnerable. If I were South here, I think I would probably bid 3 clubs in this situation. And I realize you're going to say, on 3 points? Yes. Please realize that the number of points you have here is in a way irrelevant. The important information is that you know that your partner's got a good hand, okay? And you know that the points are roughly split evenly. When I say evenly, it's like probably both sides have between 17 and 23, something like that. We can tell from the opponent's auctions, we can project that our partner has a pretty good hand here. So please, the moment you can get out of thinking, but I only have 3 points, you're probably headed in the right direction. I would bid 3 clubs here. I suppose there's an argument for making a takeout double instead. You do have Jack X of hearts for partner. But what I don't want to do is pass and let East-West play at the 2 level when they're known to have an 8-card fit and they're known not to have game values. I don't want to let them play 2 spades here. So again, we could argue about like what's the best way to balance, but what I'm trying to get you to appreciate is that you need to strongly consider balancing in this situation. Let's go to an example. The next example is one where I think it was probably good to play it conservative and maybe not balance. All right, on this one, let's say it went pass and West opened a club. It would go pass and East would bid a spade. Pass, 2 spades looks normal. And it goes pass here. So 7 times on this board, so 7 out of 11 comparisons on this board, people were allowed to play 2 spades. And their average match point percentage there was only 40%, which makes me think, you know, of course it's small sample size and yada, yada. And I don't mean to diminish that, but perhaps the situation is right here that we really shouldn't balance in this spot. So first thing is the siren bell should be going off. The opponents have bid and raised a suit and they're trying to stop the 2 level. Whatever's not in my hand is in partner's hand. Okay, so here I figure, well, we've got probably between 17 and 23. I'm only looking at 9, but I'm not bidding my own 9 as much, or considering bidding my own 9 as much as I'm considering bidding the partnership's presumed 17 to 23. So here I would look at this hand and be like, the two main things that scare me about balancing here are the vulnerability, the fact that we don't have an out at the 3 level. Like, when the opponent's bid and raise hearts, we still potentially have the spade suit to balance with, and we could still be at the 8 trick level rather than the 9 trick level. So here, there's no getting out at the 2 level. We're vulnerable, and I have a flat hand. Okay. So here, I think probably it's a better idea not to balance because of those 3 ingredients. Let's move to board 12, where it was, again, an example of you want to be a little bit more careful about balancing. Let's say that this auction went a heart, and North has a good hand, right? Like 14 count. I don't, I think it would be reasonable to double here, I guess, but my takeout double style is definitely on the don't double with flat hands, unless you've just got a ton of high cards. I would be a passer with this hand because, even though I've got a good hand, nothing fits. I'm not short in their suit. I don't have enough for 1 no trump overcall. I don't have a long suit. The hand's going to defend pretty well. Like if I'm looking at the North hand, I see scattered values, I see flat shape, and I think this hand is, generally speaking, like first blush, more suited towards defense than offense. Okay, and let's say it went 2 hearts, which East definitely should bid 2 hearts here, and it goes pass, pass. Warning bells should be going off. We should be thinking, oh, okay, let's be careful with this one because they're at the 2 level and they are trying to pass the deal out with at least 8 trumps. And again, it's kind of similar to board 7, where you're vulnerable, you've got a flat hand, and there's just not really anything that's super safe to do here. Okay, we've got king third of their suit. I talked about having an out at the 2 level. Here we do have the possibility that partner could bid spades, but I've only got 3 of them, and I've just got a flat hand. If we get to the 3 level, we're going to be trying to take 9 tricks on offense with this hand. That doesn't seem like a great idea. If I'm playing against people that I know aren't going to double me, or I know are scared to defend / likely to bid 1 more, maybe I take a chance on a takeout double with this one. But if I'm playing against people who realize that I'm vulnerable and that this is pairs scoring and that they have, kind of my head on the chopping block if I'm at all out of line, and that they can double and get a 1 trick set for 200 in the top, I'm going to be more careful in that situation. Overall, if your goal is to play good bridge, like solid bridge, thinking bridge, and you're not too opponent sensitive, I think it's probably best to pass in this situation. Okay. And let's do one more where it would have been right to balance. This is board 22. 5 times East-West were allowed to play 2 hearts here on their 8 or 1 heart on their 8 card fit, without game invitational or game values. The 5 times that they were allowed to play 2 hearts, even though it went down 2 and 3, still East-West averaged 74% when they were allowed to play 2 hearts here. So let's come up with an auction type. I think that probably the easiest way to see this is, let's say East opens a strong no trump and West transfers to hearts. So I did see people acting in the direct seat here with the North hand. Like I saw a 3 club bid. And I feel like your heart's in the right place in a situation like that. But a better way maybe to compete here, you get 2 things, is to pass initially when they've transferred into your short suit. It goes 2 hearts. And now when it comes back to you, you have a pretty easy takeout double, I think. This way we get to have all 3 suits on the table. And also we get the reassurance that they intend to stop short of game. Okay, like if for whatever reason it goes 2 hearts on my right, now West bids 3-0 or 4 hearts or something, I'll be glad that I didn't open my mouth earlier, okay, and give away anything about the hand when they've got game values. So if you're faced with this auction, I think this is just a no-brainer takeout double here. Okay, we don't necessarily know that the opponents have 8 cards in hearts. What we do know is there are 5 in the West hand and the East has a balanced hand. So, and we've only got one. Very, very, very often in this situation, they will have an 8-card fit. So it's a good educated guess that that condition of our wanting to balance is fulfilled here. So I would make a takeout double here. You know, when it gets back around to south, you've got maybe a close decision between 3 diamonds, 2 spades. Pass worked pretty well here. Don't love that one because like North doesn't have to have this much defense. And I don't like sitting for takeout doubles when I've got other options and I've got bad trumps. So I would not sit for the takeout double here with Jack 8/4. Some people did successfully though. And I would probably be a 3-card spade suit bidder, you know, if this went past me. The important thing though is this double by North and how you would get to this situation. So to wrap up, 15% of the times that boards were played on Tuesday night, people were allowed to play at the 2 level with a fit. When those conditions were met, their average score was 59%. So realize when you get into a situation, when you're known to be in a situation like that and you don't balance, on Tuesday, like on Tuesday night, you were signing up for a 41% score. And again, I think that the Tuesday night hands actually tended a little bit towards a couple of hands where the exception of not balancing those conditions existed, like A, that you're flat, B, that you're vulnerable. So I actually think that probably that number is going to tend to be that 40 signing up for 41% of the match points. I actually tend to think that when the conditions are right, you are signing up for much less score than 41% even. Okay. So that was the data from Tuesday night. Your takeaways are don't let them play at the 1 or 2 level when they are known to have an 8-card fit. You're protected by the fact that they've stopped shy of game. You're not bidding your points as much as you're bidding your partnership's points. Vulnerability matters, but again, I'm trying to push you guys to be more aggressive about balancing. It's a winning action. Even if you're not sure exactly how it's going to work out, try to get away from thinking that's like, I don't know what to do, so I'm going to take the passive action and accept that on long term here, I'm going to score 35% of the match points. That's not the way to win bridge games. Okay. Be more aggressive with your balancing when the opponents have stopped at the 1 or 2 level and they have a fit. 1 heart, 2 hearts. That should be the model auction that you're trying to avoid. All right, guys, maybe we'll talk more about this in the next video, but wanted to get you something on balancing. Hope you've gotten some good tips and ideas from this video, and I'll talk to you soon. Thursday night, remember, we are playing still virtual club for RBC, not face-to-face. Oh, guys, if you like what you're seeing here, tell a friend. I've got 65 subscribers to the channel right now, or to the Patreon thing right now. I've put as a 2022 goal to get to 100. Help me make that happen. All right, guys, talk to you later.